So here comes essence number 3. What's in this story for us on this point? That we, as students and researchers and all who are interested, have before forming an opinion. Everything was complicated. I presented an especially complicated case, but everything was complicated. We have to know, to study a lot, in order to know what happened when. Not just hover over the material, but know thoroughly what happened when, to whom, and where. And only then, after having considered the place and the time and all the actors, try to form an assessment, an opinion, if it is justified for us to make an opinion. The Germans. The Germans today in research, and the Germans at that time did not write directly or explicitly on this case. I couldn't find anything. But at the time they related a lot, especially orally, of course, in internal deliberations, about the situation after Stalingrad, February 43, and about their situation and their face in Europe, their image in Europe, after April-May 1943, the Ghetto Warsaw Revolt, which lasted from April 19 to the end of May. And it caused them. Anyhow, we are now speaking about the Germans, for whom both Stalingrad and the Ghetto Warsaw Revolt were two severe blows. On June, Heinrich Himmler issued a command that all remaining ghettos and small camps in Eastern Europe should be annihilated by the end of the year. And we are in the middle of July. The Germans suspect that there might be more underground. Why only in Warsaw? There are other cities with ghettos inside, and logically they have to assume that there are more undergrounds. They do not know that Wittenberg is a commander of an underground, but still they are afraid to enter the ghetto. They send the Lithuanians in, or Ukrainians, they are outside. But they are very willing to manipulate the situation in the ghetto by ultimatums, by demands. They are afraid also not only of Jewish undergrounds in the ghettos, they are afraid of the revival of communist cells, such as the one that they managed to find in Vilna. They are afraid of the communists as well, so this is why they are looking for him as a prominent communist, and they are looking for communists high and low. Documentation recently found, German documentation shows, such as, I give only 2 examples, the diaries of Himmler, and his handwriting on commands shows that they were terrified at that time from partisans, both communists, namely Soviet ones, and Jewish ones acting with the Soviets. They were terrified. There's another order, a killing order in Polesia, recently exposed. So partisans were their highest, the biggest fear. And this is why and how, this is the explanation of why they acted. Now, that's point number 4. What's the essence for us? What does it say to us today? I think it says that it's our task to find and expose whatever documentation we can. Because without that, without these 2 documents and others, and the deliberations on the Warsaw Ghetto revolt, you cannot understand what the Germans were doing at the time. So opening archives, reading the documents, which is both of them decisive for our work and our understanding, are, I would say, essence number 4. Now the Lithuanians. The Lithuanians are not connected directly to the affair. They were outside, they lived outside, they were sent, some of them were sent by the Germans in to arrest in Wittenberg. In 1943, they fully understand that Lithuania will not get independence from the Germans as was promised. Lithuanians are not directly connected. In 1943, they understand very well that they will not get political or other independence. And this is why they cooperate less than they did before with the Germans. The Germans are furious because this is one more sign of their coming defeat. So they are following the Lithuanians wherever they can. They execute en masse and they send them to hard labor camps, much more than they did before. In 1943, the Lithuanians feel more as victims than they did before. 1940, the second half of 1941, 1942, their special units willingly had a hand in the killing of most of Lithuanian Jewry. But in 1943, they start thinking again that they might be accused of this killing. There are more people, more Lithuanians who give a hand to Jews to help them hide themselves or hide their children. And most of the righteous of the nations from Lithuania are from this year, 1943. And they shy away from cooperation with the Germans and pay for this dearly. So they had a difficult year of oppression, 1943, and continued into the middle of 1944. Then came the Soviets and took over the Baltic countries for another 40 years. And these two incidents, or these two phases, the last German time of occupation and then the Soviet one, created in the Baltic countries a feeling of victims. And it is, for us, what's the essence here? The essence is that we have to understand. We deal with the Holocaust, that's for sure. But as Yehuda Bauer always says, Professor Bauer, there is no grading of suffering. And I would add that there is also no grading of a feeling of being a victim. It's a feeling. You cannot fight against, you cannot struggle against feelings. You have to understand them. So, the essence number 5 is, I would say, that even though we deal principally and mainly with the Holocaust, we have to understand other people, other occurrences, other feelings of sufferance and victimhood in order to understand it today. And though we are worried about the 23rd of August declaration that all victims of all totalitarian regimes would be honored and respected on the same day and on the same level, we are worried about the status of the Holocaust in that we have to take into consideration the feeling of victimhood and suffering in other places.